Welcome on Liberty and Peace Now, Human Rights Reporters. This is a special edition from Sweden. With me is a journalist and publisher of a local newspaper from the country of Uganda. He spent several times in prison. His name is Wafula Oguttu. Welcome to our program. Why you have spent several times, for which reason in prison?
For publishing things which the government not approve of, for heading a newspaper and running a radio station which the government thought was too critical. So for all the times I was in prison detained, it was not even a trial because there was no case, and we won all the cases, and even the newspaper. Several times we were talking to court, won all the cases taken, judge preferred against the newspaper. So basically, it was for intimidation and just harassment, pure harassment.
So you spent how many months or how many weeks in prison?
I didn't spend all the time. I was spending in the prison a few days.
A few days?
Yeah. And then one time I spent in prison just a day, a police cell. And the government just went through the case itself. And the other cases, the case they would be released on bail. And then the case goes on for several years. Eventually we win the case, yes.
What was we have accused you of something, but to write a critical report about some political issue or economical issue, social issue, actually usually this is no reason to get into prison. What about the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights? What about Article 19?
Article 19, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, doesn't work very much in most parts of Africa, and including Uganda. It just depends on how the leader feels about what you have said. They will then use the pretext that you have written something false or something inciting the public against the government, or seditious, something inciting the public against the presidency. These are obnoxious, outdated laws which they will catch on, and they will hold on to try to silence you. But like I said, essentially they want to intimidate you, to harass you, so that you keep quiet. Yeah.
Who has been supporting you to go through this trial while you have been facing the prison just for simply using your human rights, elementary fundamental rights according to Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for simply speaking out a part of the truth, and even if it might be critical?
Well, most of the incidents or cases were defended by our own lawyers, the company lawyers were hired by the Monitor newspaper itself. There was pressure from the ordinary people in Uganda and public opinion. And sometimes we would get support from Reporters Without Frontiers, Article 19, Amnesty International. They would also issue statements trying to appeal to government to release us or to leave us to do our work. Basically that, but we always fought our battles ourselves and hired lawyers ourselves. We never got any material support from anybody outside the newspaper.
So do you have any idea what could be the solution to deal with this problem that you actually have no freedom of the press, no freedom of expression of opinion? What you desire, what should happen in the country of Uganda?
I think Uganda is a country where a lot of its national budget is supported by donors. So the donors have a strong role, a major role to play in whatever goes on in our country. And they should have a lot of influence, and which they do, over the government, if they dared, or if they tried, or if they chose to exert that influence or pressure. They don't. And if they did, among the things that they would be fighting for is free media. and putting pressure on the government not to unduly harass the journalists and intimidate them. But they sometimes do it, but in a very feeble, very weak way. They don't do it in a strong way. And sometimes the media looks quite let down, but they don't accommodate it. Especially countries which enjoy a lot of freedom, like Sweden, where we are now, or Europe. They don't seem to see that this is also a good system. These are good benchmarks for countries like Uganda, so that there's real freedom of the media. Yeah.
So do you imagine or do you desire that the international media, such for example Swedish media, Swedish television, or the British television, European television, or even journalists from America might cooperate with journalists from Uganda?
Yes.
Or in Uganda? Or
yes, journalists from the international journalists can cooperate. I mean, we don't have very well trained journalists. This is one of the reasons, the things the government points out, that we don't have, the journalists are not well trained. Although we have university degrees, we have universities giving degrees in journalism in my country, but some of them lack exposure. Some of them don't travel very much. Some of them have never worked with or stayed to visit a media house outside Uganda or outside the continent, and that would help them if they say Ugandan journalists came to Sweden. Of course, there's a problem of language, but to see how it works and how people conduct themselves. Sometimes the journalists are reckless. They don't do good cross-checking their stories, and they publish anything. But publishing something which is wrong should not make somebody go to jail like it happens in Uganda. It should just be corrected. But and I'm sure that's what's done in Europe. But exchange would be definitely useful, and working together and training, yes, it would help a lot.
So exchange of journalists,
yeah,
African journalists
coming,
which are traveling to Europe or
yes,
America,
yes,
and American journalists
Get
or
on,
European journalists which are traveling to Africa to know about the situation of Uganda.
And the working conditions, the newsroom, what it is like, the conditions under which the journalists work, and physically in the newsrooms, and also the environment, the political environment under which they are working. Then they would appreciate the problems. Yeah.
What is the title of your newspaper, and what about the circulation of your newspaper?
My newspaper is called the Monitor newspaper. The circulation is about 30,000 copies daily. It's a daily paper.
It's a daily.
It's 7 days a week. Yeah.
So where do you get the funds from for your paper?
From sales and advertising, from circulation, selling newspapers, and also getting adverts. Yes.
Have you been, sometimes it happens in Europe and in other countries, but if you oppose governmental views, you will be excluded of the financial market, you will be economical ruined or banned.
Well, it has happened before to the Monitor. 1 year after we founded it, the government did not want it to survive, and so they imposed a ban on the newspaper. We could not get any advertising from government agencies and government departments for 4 years. And then, of course, because the government was saying we're its enemy, even some private companies, which would have ordinarily not have a problem with us, they also began fearing giving us advertising, because they feared if the government would also blacklist them and don't give them business to do, because a lot of business in Africa is done with the governments. So in a way they put that but it didn't quite affect us as it should, as they expected. Instead, the public increased the demand for the paper, and so we're selling more. We had been selling about 10,000 copies. We began selling in 1 year 16,000 copies, and we also reduced our own expenditure. We cut down a lot of expenses, and we survived. And actually we built that paper on a very solid foundation, because we didn't get money from anybody else, no, only from the public. Yeah.